The haunted Stronghold. Deep beneath the surface of a forgotten world, where ancient forests surrendered to winding caves and quiet valleys kept secrets of ages past, lay a legend, whispered only by the wind through crumbling ruins, the Stronghold of Echoes. It was not merely abandoned, the tales claimed, but unwillingly vacated, its builders said to have been seized by an unspeakable dread, leaving behind their colossal stone edifice. To the creeping shadows and the endless night, many had sought it, drawn by the allure of untold treasures or the fabled portal to another dimension. But few returned, and those who did spoke only of a profound chill that seeped into their very bones, and a quiet madness that clung to the air. Kalen, known across several biomes for his insatiable curiosity and unnerving ability to navigate the most treacherous terrain, had spent weeks tracking the elusive signs. He was not motivated by greed, but by the quiet hum of history, the thrill of uncovering what the world had forgotten. His pickaxe had unearthed cryptic engravings on an ancient obelisk. His compass had spun wildly near a cluster of mossy cobblestone, and his keen ears had caught the faint, discordant resonance of stone grinding against stone, not from a living hand, but from something far older. Today, after descending through a labyrinthine cave system, fraught with the usual perils of skittering spiders and groaning zombies, he finally saw it. A massive obsidian-rimmed archway, half swallowed by rock, the undeniable entrance to a stronghold. A palpable wave of cold, far deeper than the underground chill, washed over him. He stepped inside, his iron boots echoing ominously on the smooth stone bricks. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something else, something indefinable, like ancient dust and a lingering sorrow. Torches he placed cast along dancing shadows that seemed to stretch and writhe, mimicking unseen movements. This was no ordinary stronghold, he realized almost immediately. The silence was profound, yet it throbbed with an unspoken presence. His initial exploration was methodical. He moved through libraries where bookshelves stood crookedly, as if hastily abandoned, and through vast, empty chambers whose purpose was now lost to time. The usual inhabitants, the scuttling silverfish, the shambling zombies, and the clattering skeletons were present, but their movements seemed muted, their groans softer, as if even they were subdued by the stronghold's oppressive atmosphere. Kalen dispatched them with practiced ease, but each confrontation felt less like a battle, and more like an intrusion on a solemn wake. Then, the strangeness began to escalate. As he walked past a section of wall, the distinct, rhythmic thunk of a pickaxe striking stone echoed from an unseen chamber, only to cease abruptly the moment he turned his head. In a dusty corner of a sprawling storage room, a single, perfectly crafted iron ingot, glinting in the faint light from his torch, seemed to slide a fraction of an inch across the floor when he blinked. He paused, watching, but it remained still. He told himself it was the dim light, or perhaps the subtle tremor of the earth. In a long, desolate corridor, he heard it for the first time, a whisper, thin as spun moonlight, that brushed against his ear, too indistinct to form words, yet undeniably there. It carried a quality of profound melancholy. Kalen gripped his sword tighter, his breath missing in the sudden, inexplicable chill. He was alone, yet utterly convinced he was not. He pressed deeper, driven by an explorer's stubborn refusal to retreat. He discovered a section of the stronghold that felt different. The stone here was darker, the moss thicker, and the air crackled with a static energy. This area contained what appeared to be ancient workshops, half-finished crafting tables still bearing the faint marks of unknown materials, and furnaces long cold. Here, the phenomena intensified. Books in a crumbling library began to flutter their pages as if an unseen hand were turning them, then would slam shut simultaneously. Torches Kalen had placed moments earlier would sputter and die, plunging sections of the corridor into sudden, terrifying darkness, only to reignite with a faint pop, their flames flickering wildly as if agitated. He found himself in a vast circular chamber, clearly significant. In its center, a single, ornate pedestal stood empty. As Kalen approached, the temperature plummeted, and a visible mist swirled around his feet. He felt a chilling presence, like 1,000 unseen eyes scrutinizing him. The whispers grew louder, no longer formless, but a cacophony of overlapping voices, a desperate murmur of warning and sorrow. He could almost discern words, ancient and guttural, speaking of a breach, a ceiling, and things that must not be awakened. It was then he knew. The Stronghold was not just haunted by echoes, but by the very essence of its builders, trapped by their final terrifying purpose. A translucent figure, barely more than a shimmer in the gloom, flickered into existence at the edge of his vision. It was humanoid, indistinct, but it pointed a spectral finger not at him, but past him, towards a wall that seemed to hum with suppressed energy. It faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving Kalen's heart hammering against his ribs. He felt no malice from the presence, only a profound, desperate urgency. Following the direction of the ethereal finger, he found a hidden passage, cleverly concealed behind a seemingly solid wall of smooth stone. As he pushed it open, a wave of truly oppressive energy washed over him, almost knocking him backward. This was it, the end portal room. It was magnificent and terrifying, a towering frame of obsidian, its 12 facets awaiting the eyes of Ender, stood dormant in the center of the chamber. But it was not the portal itself that commanded his attention. The air here vibrated with raw power, and the whispers intensified into a crescendo of anguish and fear. Before the portal frame, scattered across the floor, were skeletal remains, not from mobs, but clearly humanoid, ancient, and around them, flickering and fading, were dozens of the translucent figures, writhing in silent agony, their forms contorted as if in a struggle against an unseen force. As Kalen cautiously stepped into the room, one of the spectral figures, larger and more defined than the others, coalesced directly in front of him. It was the form of an ancient builder, its ethereal hands reaching out, not to harm, but to plead. It pointed frantically at the portal, then at a large, intricately carved chest embedded in the wall behind it. A chest he hadn't noticed before, its lid seemingly fused shut. The whisper from this figure was clearer now, a resonant thrum in his mind echoing, "Seal, not open, the gate, the price." Kalen understood. These were not malevolent spirits seeking to harm him. They were guardians, the very builders of this stronghold, who had perished here, desperately trying to contain something, to prevent a catastrophe. Their haunting was a desperate, eternal warning. They hadn't abandoned the stronghold. They had sacrificed themselves to seal away a danger accessible through the end portal, or perhaps to prevent others from using the portal in a way that would unleash a greater evil. The chest, he realized, must contain the very essence of their struggle, or perhaps the final component that, if misused, would truly breach the gate. He knelt, not in fear, but in respect. The spectral builder shimmered, its anguished pleas continuing. Kalen reached out, not to activate the portal, but to the chest. He examined its ancient carvings, a series of pictograms depicting a world consumed by shadows and then a struggle, a ceiling, and finally, a group of figures standing sentinel. They were warnings, not instructions. He looked at the portal again, then back at the chest, and finally, at the spectral forms of the builders. They were still there, their silent pleas echoing in his mind. The temptation to activate the portal, to see what lay beyond, was immense, But the agony in the builders' forms, the clear warning in their gestures, spoke volumes. This portal was not merely a gateway, it was a cage, a lock on something terrifying. To open it now, after witnessing their eternal struggle, would be an act of profound disrespect, and perhaps utter folly. Instead of inserting the eyes of Ender, Kalen moved towards the sealed chest. He placed his hand on its ancient cold surface, feeling the thrum of contained power. He pulled out his own blocks, not to open, but to reinforce. He began to carefully, meticulously, encase the chest in layers of obsidian, then reinforce it further with reinforced deep slate, making it an impregnable vault. He crafted iron bars and layered them over the portal frame itself, not to block it completely, but to signify an intentional sealing, a visual declaration that this gate was to remain undisturbed. As he worked, the oppressive atmosphere in the chamber began to recede. The spectral builders, still present, now seemed to flicker with less anguish, their forms calmer, some even appearing to nod in ethereal acknowledgement. When he finished, the chamber felt different. The chill remained, but it was no longer the piercing cold of dread, but a solemn, respectful coolness. The whispers had subsided to a faint, soothing murmur, like a distant ocean tide. The builders' forms, though still present, now stood as silent, eternal guardians, no longer tormented by their duty, but at peace in its fulfillment. Kalen had understood their sacrifice, honored their warning. He retrieved his tools, turned, and began the long journey back to the surface. As he left the end portal chamber, the spectral builders remained, watching him depart. He felt no fear now, only a profound sense of awe and a quiet understanding of the ancient burdens that still lingered in the world. He had come seeking a mystery, and he had found not just answers, but a purpose and a truth far more profound than any treasure. Some gates are meant to remain closed, and some secrets are best guarded by the silent, eternal vigil of the brave. Kalen emerged from the Stronghold of Echoes, not with loot or glory, but with a knowledge that weighed heavier than any diamond, a knowledge that forever changed the way he viewed the silent, ancient world beneath his feet. He left the Stronghold to its quiet guardians, its secrets now doubly safe, honored by a living soul who finally understood.